Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML.
News Talk 1270 KIML, Don Carpenter Show. Welcome back to the program, and we're actually going to call a little bit of an audible here, kind of a tie-in with the football talk, but we're going to call a little bit of an audible here. Mayor Murphy stopped by a little bit early, so I figured we'd get him in studio. I didn't want you sitting out front by yourself for 20 minutes and waiting.
Appreciate that.
Yes, thanks for joining us, and good to see you again.
Good morning. Good morning.
So I guess I have a whole agenda of things we'll talk about, but the first one I wanted to talk about is the fact-finding tour, and could you give us a little bit of an update about how that went and a little bit about what you guys did?
Okay, a little bit of background for yourself and for others that maybe it's new to them. The Northeast Wyoming Municipal Leadership, which is the mayors and city council and town council people of Northeast Wyoming, got together, I think in 2004, and wanted to share some of the problems that they had with one another, and so that when they went down to the legislature, they could share those problems and let the state representatives know what their issues were. When I became mayor, one of the ideas that was circulated through the group was the fact that we were the ones that should be telling our story when it comes to energy development and tourism. And so the thought was 2 years ago, to do exactly that, to invite the people that make policy for this country out to Northeast Wyoming and let them see for themselves that the two biggest industries in the state of Wyoming, which are tourism and energy development, are done side by side. And so that 2 years ago, we began this adventure. And again, this year, 2 years ago, we had 6 participants. This year we had 29. And the monies that are coming to do this is coming from the local governments. One of the problems that we have in this country, especially for folks living and working in Washington, D.C., is ethics rules. It is easier for those folks to travel overseas than it is to come and visit places within our own country. And so the private sector is not able to fund these trips. And so it is important that people understand that that's why the Northeast group did this, is that local governments can pay for these trips and bring these people in and let them see for themselves the policies that they're making and how they affect us.
Right, and it's kind of a situation where, like you said, the ethics rules forbid private funding of this kind of thing, but it also promotes the local area as well. So I mean, it's I guess a wise use of the public funds.
I think it is. I think it's important that the federal government getting or being able to be led by local governments or state governments to see what the problems and what the issues are. The fact that we supply 20% of America's electrical needs is very, very important. And I think the fact that we do it responsibly and showing these folks the reclamation efforts that have been done and the fact that they're returning the land into a better condition than it was before we mined.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Was probably one of the biggest things that they came away from.
Yeah, and speaking as, from someone that came from back east, and, my granddad was a coal miner, but he worked, underground in West Virginia. I had this even somebody as, like me who supports mining, I had a certain image of what it was.
Sure.
And the only way you really learn how we do things around here is to actually come here and see it. And, I've been to the mines. I went over to Dry Fork, the station, and seeing that kind of stuff is much better than just watching a video or reading a press release or something like that. I mean, it really is. It's vital to our effort to, kind of win this war of, for the hearts and minds of the people of the country.
Sure. I think you said Dry Fork Station. It was really important for them to be able to go to the roof of the Dry Fork Station, and it's a beautiful view from up there.
Oh yeah,
but then to be able to look at the top of the stack and not see anything coming out, and a few of them said, is this plant operating right now? And why, yes, it is.
That's exactly what I thought when I got up there. I mean, the only emissions that I saw was coming out of one of the just small exhaust stacks in the roof of the station that from the air conditioning unit or something like that. Sure. There was nothing coming out of the stacks. I mean, no visible emissions at all.
Sure.
And I think it really is important to see state-of-the-art equipment like that because, unfortunately, a lot of people do have the wrong, the wrong vision in their head of coal power.
Sure, and I think probably the other major point that was made to these folks is that when they make policy, especially with the EPA or the DEQ, when those folks make policy, it detours development of any power generation, whether it be nuclear or coal or gas, because the Dry Fork Station took almost 10 years to permit, $115 million in that process, with no guarantee that it was going to be built at all. And so, and even when the construction started, they were still in litigation. And so, no guarantee that their air quality permit would be issued. And so that this is the problem. In China right now, you have a handful of people that will make a decision on whether to move forward with an energy project. In our country, there's over 3,000 people, any one of which can scuttle the project. And so letting them know and understand what effect that their policies have on energy development and the security, the economic security of this country was important. And I think Dry Fork Station and showing them that did that.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you brought up China. I mean, you wouldn't think that the way things are in China compared to what we think things are like here, but the bureaucracy is so much more massive here. And over there, I mean, let's be honest, I mean, they really don't give a damn about the environment. They're trying to keep up with their economy, and they're having a hard time doing that.
Well, I think they're very sensitive to their economy as well as their environment. When I was there, the amount of trees that were being planted was phenomenal. Every cultivation area that was wet had trees planted there. I mean, everywhere we went. They're very sensitive to their environment, but like as you say, their economic engine is important as well. All of Asia, not just China, but India and all the Asian areas want to have what we have. That's refrigeration. That's refrigeration for their food. They want to have heating and air conditioning for their homes, and that's exactly what the rest of the world wants. Africa as well. And so there's a tremendous demand for energy worldwide right now that's driving this. It's not just China.
See, now that's actually the first time I'd actually heard that they are, I guess they're at least trying to take steps then to be environmentally responsible.
Sure, they're producing a new coal-fired power plant almost 3 a month, and that is so that they can retire their old ones that pollute quite a bit. So as far as technology like the Dry Fork Station has, which is old technology by world standards, they have new coal-fired power plants that are cleaner and operate more efficiently than ours. And the reason for it is that they do not have the bureaucracy and the regulation, and they simply start with a 40-acre plot and bring GE or some other large corporation and say, let's do this together. And they learn whatever they can. And then they pick up and move over to the next 40-acre plot and improve on that. So it's a phenomenal. They are great capitalists right now, and they are beating us at our own game.
Yeah, see, and I find that really surprising. So I guess how did the? I mean, do you think you changed any minds with the fact-finding tours?
If I was to sum it up in a couple sentences, I would say that that those that believe in domestic energy development. When they left here, they were further confirmed or baptized in a confirmation that they've been right all along.
Right.
And that those that have opposed fossil fuels, and specifically coal, left with a doubt in their mind. And those that were sitting on the fence on one way or the other were confirmed that what we're doing here in Northeast Wyoming, energy development, and specifically coal, is a very good thing and should continue.
Oh, so at least some of the people were, at least kind of shown the light. Maybe not all, but some.
Absolutely. I think, well, you've said it. You've come from the East Coast, the eastern part of our country, where mountaintop mining is done and is devastating to the environment. You've said yourself in our conversation so far that what you've seen out here is a very positive thing.
Oh, absolutely.
And so they came and saw what you'd have. Maybe a little more detail. In fact, probably a lot more detail.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is a positive thing. I believe we have been successful, and I believe more folks from the East, especially staffers, will want to come either next year or the year after when we do this again.
Well, hey, that's good to hear. So, so this is something that's going to be an ongoing thing then.
I think most of the Northeast municipal leadership want to continue this. Yes.
Okay. So actually, you know what? We're let's see. We're up against the we completely skipped one break. Let's take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, we'll talk about a few other things. And I don't know if Joe's coming in, but maybe you'll give him a chance to get here. So how about that?
Sounds good.
Okay, we'll be back right after the break with Mayor Tom Murphy, News Talk 1270 KIML.
For the latest on the show, follow Don on Twitter @TheDonCarpenter. News Talk 1270 KIML. You're listening to Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML. Call Don right now, 682-1270.
News Talk 1270 KIML, Don Carpenter Show. Welcome back to the program. And if you're just joining us in studio, we have Mayor Tom Murphy. We got started a little bit early.
Good morning, Don.
So Mayor Murphy, I guess the next issue I wanted to talk about was something. It was finally decided this week, but it's something we've had a little bit of discussion about, and that's the expansion of liquor sales on Sundays. Could you just tell us a little bit about how that process went about, and then we'll talk about some specifics?
Sure. One of the council members believed that we should extend the hours of liquor license on Sundays, as the state statute says, and that's, I believe, from 8 in the morning till 2 in the morning. Years and years ago, the Sunday it was a dry Sunday. You couldn't buy any alcohol. I'm not sure at what year the council decided to open that up or expand those hours, but we've decided as a council to go to what the state statute is, and that's 7 days a week.
So how did this come about? Did a local business owner ask to have it matched up, or is it just something that one of the council members just thought, maybe we should match things up, and kind of did it on his own?
I think a combination of both. We had several businesses that say, we've got people working shift work in our community. Quite a few folks are, and that their Friday sometimes falls on a Sunday. So the council considered it and voted 6-1 to do that, to move that forward. But during that deliberation, I think there was an outcry from some folks saying that the council hasn't done anything in regards to DUIs and alcohol abuse and substance abuse, and quite opposite is the truth. In 2006, then Chief Adrians was directed by the council to set up a complete protocol for all of the liquor license holders. You have to understand that the state issues by census the number of liquor licenses that a city or town gets, or a county, and that it is our responsibility to manage those licenses, to make sure that whoever is holding that license is meeting state statute and any city ordinances. And up until Mr. Adrian's Chief Adrian's had come into our community, there wasn't a solid protocol for the council to do those kind of considerations every year. If you're a liquor license holder, Don, you come before the council every April to make sure that you get your liquor license renewed. And if it's a full liquor license, it's valued as an asset of $250,000. So this is a very big responsibility that the council has. Now, if you as a bar owner and liquor license holder have a fight in your bar, you're required to immediately call the police department and say that this is happening. That's part of that protocol process. If you don't, then you get in some serious trouble and serious fines. And if you can, and then have to have a remedy for that. And if you continue to have problems within our community like this, then the council will look at it very unfavorably in renewing your license the following year. And so I also want to state the fact that Mr. McGrath, Councilman McGrath, who worked for the city for, I think, 25, 30 years as an officer, who now works for the Sheriff's Department, commented to the public that had some concerns that in the last 3 years, DUIs were down close to 50% in our county. And so we are doing several things to combat alcohol abuse and DUIs in our community. Whether it's enough or not, probably not. But leaving the choice to the individual, I think, is, at least from my perspective, is why I voted to extend those hours.
Now, you mentioned some of the things that are being done. I mean, are there programs in place to help out the liquor license owners, maybe spot intoxicated customers and not let them drive off? I mean, are there any kind of programs in place to kind of educate the business owners? Absolutely.
The liquor license holders are the ones most at risk, as well as the person serving the alcohol. That has to be understood first. There is TIPS training, which is I believe, a day-long training in which how you card someone, how you recognize someone that's been overserved. This TIPS training is absolutely crucial for anyone that wants to work in this situation. They, in fact, are the ones that recognize when someone has been overserved. They're the ones that are held liable if they decide at that point to go ahead and serve them more alcohol. And so it's vital that the people serving are educated, and we have that process. Now, the council is considering, through the Substance Abuse and Advisory Council, to have mandatory TIPS training for any individual working for anyone that holds a liquor license. And that's something that's being considered right now.
Yeah, I actually had a few of the ladies from the Substance Abuse Advisory Council in, and they mentioned the TIPS training. So that there is an effort being made. It's not that everybody's just sitting back and letting everybody get drunk and drive all over the place.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken with some of the folks in the police department, and they take it very seriously. They understand that there's a bit of a problem in the community, and they are working to deal with that.
We're changing as a society on our view of that. I think a good example of that might be the crawdad feed years ago. You'd have 5,000-6,000 people show up out at Camplex. You'd go out the next morning to clean up, and you'd see maybe 1 or 2 vehicles in the parking lot. Now, when that event is going on, you'll see 150, 200 vehicles in the parking lot. People are starting to recognize when they or their friends are overserved and are taking them home themselves, or asking for a ride, or calling a cab. So it takes a while to change society's views on things, but it's happening within our community, and probably to a greater degree than anywhere else.
So, and actually, when I actually first heard about this change, I believe the first time I heard about it was on the second reading, and I was thinking, why change something if there's not a problem? But then, like you mentioned, the shift work thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, more and more people are working odd shifts. They're, like you said, Sunday is their Friday, or they work third shift, and they just want to stop and maybe buy a case of beer for the week. on the way home. And so, I mean, this would give the shift workers a little bit of an opportunity to at least, at least stock up for the week, I guess.
Yeah, and I think Councilman Rothleutner, obviously he changed his vote on the final reading, and his explanation, and I'll paraphrase this, was that for a council member to impose their moral will on someone else through an ordinance is itself morally wrong. And so leaving people with a choice, I think the Almighty gave us our free will, which is probably the greatest gift that we have, and being able to keep that and make our own decisions on how we live our lives is paramount to a free and open society. And I think that's one of the reasons why I voted the way I did, and why several of the council members voted the way they did.
Sure. And I mean, what would you say to the people that did have concerns about the safety aspects?
That we have a lot of things in place that are working, and we still have tragedies in our community, and that's evident on what happened in an interstate here a few months ago. And we're probably still going to have that happen within our community. But the fact of the matter is that we as a society are doing better. There's evidence all around that is happening. It takes time to change. Please be patient. We're not done yet. We will implement and do things because no one wants to see someone have a tragedy that's happened within our community recently.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's always, again, you're never going to have 100% safety. No matter what you do,
there's always a risk.
There's always a risk, and that's unfortunately that's part of life. So let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll talk about a few other things, and maybe we'll get to the Field of Dreams. And we'll also take your calls for the mayor. So stay tuned. News Talk 1270 KIML.
He likes turtles too. Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML. You're listening to Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML. Call Don right now, 682-1270.
News Talk 1270 KIML, Don Carpenter Show. Thanks for joining us this morning. And if you're just tuning in, we have Mayor Tom Murphy in studio.
Good morning again.
Good morning. And I guess the next place I'd like to go, and of course, if anybody has any questions for the mayor, we have a few minutes left. 682-1270, 682-1270 is the number. During the break, we heard the Cowboy State News, and this kind of ties in with something I was going to ask about. We just had a recent open bid period for a mining opportunity in Campbell County, and nobody picked up that bid. And I think a lot of people that oppose the Field of Dreams, they're afraid that what's going to happen is we're going to lose coal revenue, and that would put us in a bad position. And we have a call, so I'll finish my question, but I want to let the caller get a shot here. Sure. News Talk 1270, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm a new resident to the area, and have taken the time to look at things here, and I really don't understand, and maybe the mayor can enlighten me, as to why we're building, or you're building, a $90 million dream Field of Dreams in this town when you don't have the population, as I see it, to support this kind of thing, where you already have baseball fields and softball fields elsewhere in town, and then you have a very nice facility for horse racing there that just sits there that could be a revenue maker rather than a facility that just uses money. Can you explain to me why this is happening?
Yeah, I'd love to.
And it actually ties in with what I was going to ask. I want to thank the caller for that call. And I guess a lot of people are afraid that we might not be able to afford this, especially if the coal revenues drop off. So I don't. They're kind of related.
Well, first of all, the Field of Dreams was exactly that. It was organized by the city council, the task force. 3 members of the city council organized this as well. But over 300 people of our community were given the task to look into the future and see what our city would look like in reference to a very large recreation area 30 years from now, when the population will be 50, 60,000 people. The city council and may or may not build it. That's up to future city councils. What we have done is put the infrastructure in the ground and done the dirt work for it, so that we don't pay that exorbitant rate in our next boom. A good example of what had happened since 2004, when I came on the council, is that the city spent over $40 million on building new roads in our community, when in fact they could have been built for $20 million had we had a long-term progressive infrastructure plan. We do have that now. What the city council, the precedence for all of this 5 years ago, was that we needed new Little League fields. And that's what precipitated the whole process. The city council unanimously decided that we need to build new Little League fields, and we're going to do that. And the fact that we're going to build them so that girls fast pitch softball, another group in our community, the fastest growing sport in the nation, will also be able to use it, is a double whammy. We now can satisfy 2 groups of people that desperately need the facilities, and when in fact we were only planning to satisfy 1. The Field of Dreams, the dirt work will be done, the infrastructure will be put in the ground for a large project, whether it be parks or not. And this is not the last time or the first time the city has done something like this. A good example of that is where the college sits and the rec center sits. That was supposed to be a business park. And in fact, the city went ahead and bought the facilities, or bought the property, I should say, and put the infrastructure in the ground in the early 90s. And I think they purchased the land from the reserves somewhere around $7,500 an acre. If you go to the county assessor's office and look at the 24 acres that the rec center sits on, it's appraised at $113,000 an acre now. And so the responsibility of any local government is to build infrastructure. We are building infrastructure for the future, which will pay high dividends later on.
Okay, and the caller also mentioned the horse racing facility. I don't know a whole lot about that, but
well, that's the responsibility of the land board. The land board is a joint powers board between the county commissioners and the city of Gillette, the city council. The county commissioners fund a majority of what goes on at Camplex, and the fact of the matter is that horse racing was a losing proposition years ago. Whether or not it can be revived is something that the present director will decide, and the land board will decide.
Okay, looks like we have another call here. I believe this might be Duff. News Talk 1270, you're on the air.
Hey, you're recognizing it, huh?
Oh, well, I recognize your number now.
Yeah, I was going to address your last caller there.
Sure.
He was talking about we got a perfectly good racetrack out there that we're not utilizing. I've only been here since 78, and I think Tom will back me up on this. But a no-starter is horse racing in Wyoming. It's did nothing over the years but lose money.
That's correct.
Yeah. I mean, I've read. I didn't even know we had a horse racing facility, but I have read stories about some of the other tracks in the state not doing so well.
All the other tracks in the state, like I said, I've only been here since 78, and horse racing is a non-starter in Wyoming, period.
Yeah, it was a losing proposition from the start. Folks enjoyed it, of course, but the land board decided that was the case, and that we needed to do something.
Never anywhere near revenue neutral. So.
Okay, hey, there you go. There's the local perspective of that.
You bet.
Yeah, and got any more questions?
No.
Okay. Thanks a lot for the call. It's always good hearing from you. I guess the other concern that a lot of people have, and we'll kind of go back to where I was starting with it before the call. People are, I'm sure there's a lot of concern about possibly coal revenues dropping off, and today's story with the lease not being bid on.
Well, there's several.
There's
several reasons that a lease might not be bid. One is the strip ratios. The farther west we go, the deeper the coal is, and with present technologies and the size of the tires and the size of equipment, and the revenue that coal brings, it may be that it's just not feasible at this point. You have to remember that, and this is one of the things that we told the congressional staffers when they were out here, is that it's imperative that the federal leases on coal still be put forward, that it takes 10 years for it to cycle through. So when one of these mining interests does a coal lease, we're looking at a long period of time before that coal is finally mined. So it's imperative that they keep those leases out there and keep the bidding process going. And now, what happened with this particular lease, I don't know the details. Your story is probably have more details than I have. But there's several reasons. Might be the price is too high, the minimum price is too high. It might be the coal strip ratios. It might be several reasons.
So we really shouldn't read anything into this. I mean, we shouldn't be worried then.
I can tell you that our revenues at the city are substantially higher than what we predicted them to be a year ago.
Oh, so we're in pretty good shape then.
We are.
Okay, let's take one more call before the break. News Talk 1270 KIML. You're on the air with Mayor Tom Murphy.
Good morning. Say, I apologize if this question has already been asked, but is there something in the city laws or bylaws that says over a certain amount of money that we spend should be up to the public vote, i.e. the Field of Dreams or whatever the case may be? If it's over $20 million, $50 million, whatever, is to put it to a public vote. I know that's expensive, but I look in the paper and all the engineering studies that have been done on numerous projects. That isn't cheap either. And thank you.
So I guess the question is, how do you decide which things are held up for a public vote and which aren't?
I think if they're large capital facilities projects, well, we put them to a vote in our community.
Like the pipeline.
The pipeline was one. The Wyoming Center was probably the latest. That was put to a public vote. I think it was 0.25%, or maybe it was 0.5%. I think it was 0.25% that was voted in to tax ourselves. You have to also understand that when we do that, all of these capital facilities taxes sunset. So the water project will sunset as soon as we reach our 1/3 match for the state of Wyoming. It's a 2/3, 1/3 funding model, and so that's what we typically do.
So normally it's only voted on if a tax increase is part of it.
That's correct.
Okay, so let's take a short break. We'll come back and we'll kind of wrap things up. I know you have to get out of here fairly soon, so we'll do one more segment and we'll take your calls for the mayor. We'll talk some water and maybe a few other things. News Talk 1270 KIML.
For the latest on the show, follow Don on Facebook. Just search for Don Carpenter Radio. News Talk 1270 KIML. You're listening to Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML.
News Talk 1270 KIML, Don Carpenter Show. Welcome back to the program, and we're talking with Mayor Tom Murphy. I want to thank you again for joining us.
Yeah, you bet.
And we talked a little bit about the Field of Dreams stuff in the last break. If anybody does have any more questions, 682-1270, 682-1270 is the number. We only have a few minutes left, so I wanted to hit a few other things. How are the water programs coming along?
Well, the Madison Water Project is almost nearing completion as far as the inner city loop. We will be coming out with the larger portions of the project that head east, that head to the field just around Devil's Tower, just north and east of Moorcroft. And that's a pretty exciting part, and it's also one of the largest parts of the Madison project. And so the inner city loop is complete or nearing completion. I also want to say that and I am very biased with this. I am the statement that I'm about to make is a biased statement, but we live in the best community in the state and probably the nation in the fact that when the city council asks people not to water on Mondays, they haven't. We typically percolate along in the dead of winter at about 4 million gallons a day. Every Monday so far this summer, we've hit right at 5 million gallons, or a little bit higher or a little bit less. That is evidence that we have a great community that listens to the leaders' needs and respond accordingly.
Yeah, and I've noticed it too. I mean, drive around, you don't see people watering. So, I mean, having a little bit of rain helps, but but the big part of it is people are doing their part.
You bet.
So let's go back to the phones. News Talk 1270. You're on the air with Mayor Murphy.
Morning, Don. Morning, Your Honor. How are you today?
Good.
Your Honor, when we were young, we had mayors and like Mike Kinsey and Herb Carter who planned ahead. And it might be worth just sharing with a lot of folks who haven't been here as long as you have, what the benefits of their forethought were to their kids and kids' kids. Just because it's the same kind of thinking that's still on the council. And I think it's just important to know and to reflect on every now and then from where we came. And with that, I'll just hang up and let you answer the question.
Well, I appreciate that question. The very first thing I learned in 2004, in the first 30 days of holding office as a city councilman, I was in Mayor Evenson's office with Senator John Hines, and I was quite upset at what the prices were coming in for right-of-way. We were going to build some roads that we desperately needed. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it was taking 45 minutes to get across town in this community, which was ridiculous. And so I said to Mayor Evenson and Senator Hines, I said, why do we wait to build infrastructure in a time of a boom when it costs us 3 times the amount of money that it does in a time of a bust? And I'll never forget the look on both their faces. They both turned extremely red and upset, and I could see that in their eyes, and I immediately shut up, and there was a quiet pause of 3 or 4 seconds, and Senator Hines looked at Mayor Evenson, and Mayor Evenson nodded his head, and he turned back to me and he said, Tom, it takes great political will to build infrastructure in a time of a bust and a time of a boom. And I learned that lesson very, very well. When we have a plan of building infrastructure of whatever type it might be, whether it be roads, sewer, water, parks, all the things that government provides that the private sector won't. When we have a long-term plan, we get the best bang for their buck for taxpayers' dollars. That is what we've done with the property where the new baseball complex is going to be. We have put the infrastructure in the ground in the time of a bust and got exceptional prices. So when and if that piece of property, whatever it might become, it might become an industrial park. It might become a business park where you have people working with a baseball complex with trees and a pathway around it, which is conducive to many parts of the world. Ferrari, for example, has a wonderful complex where their people go on break or lunch breaks, sit in green areas that are fantastic. They attract the best and the brightest that work in their factories. That's what we need to do if we're going to be successful in our community in years to come.
So I guess the moral of the story is that the book really hasn't been written on this yet.
The fact of the matter is that building infrastructure is the responsibility of government, especially local government. And when you do it incrementally with a long-term plan, that is being frugal with taxpayers' dollars. And that's what this council has been about since 2004. And I hope that it will continue that way.
Okay, that's a good answer, and I want to thank Mr. Speaker for the call. I didn't know if he wanted to be outed, but I figured I'd mention it. But it was an excellent call. News Talk 1270, you're on the air.
Hey, just a couple of questions for the mayor and a couple of opinions on things. You know, we put the 1% tax in Wyoming for the gas, and so we have debt. And I know that in my personal household budget, if I have debt, then I can't tell myself that I have extra money. I mean, I can't say that I got $20 sitting here on the kitchen counter, I'm going to go buy something if I owe somebody else $100. Mm-hmm. So we didn't have the money for the Field of Dreams. It would have been nice to retire the debt for the water project.
Well,
give everybody in Wyoming a congratulations that now your 1% tax is retired early, and then have cash for Field of Dreams or for a speculation project. But we don't have any cash if we owe money.
Well, I believe you're incorrect. I'm not sure where you're getting your facts. The fact of the matter is that all of the Wyoming Water Development Commission projects are a 2/3, 1/3 match. The only time that a municipality needs to pay that back is when they start to receive a benefit from that project. So in 2016 or 2017, when we turn the tap on, that's when we're going to have to pay the money back to the state of Wyoming. We will have already collected that probably in late 2015. So we don't have any debt for the Madison Water Project. The debt that we do have is $80 million for the YGen 3 power plant. We bought 23 megawatts of power a year and a half ago. And the fact of the matter is that we can't pay that back. The bonding company that we bonded with won't let us till 2026. So as far as a long-term debt, we do have our wastewater treatment plant that we could pay off, and I think it's at $12 million this year, but we've got 2% money on it. And if we do pay that off, because of a resolution, we would have to raise our sewer rates tremendously in order to pay that off, because we have said as a council that all of our enterprise funds, whether they be sewer, water, power, will pay for themselves. We are not going to charge for water or sewer and then build something else. They have to be standalone. And so, one other thing I need to make on this point. The baseball softball complex will not be used, no 1% money will be used for that. It will be monies collected from industry that will pay for that complex. It will be monies brought in from industry that purchase the land and will put the infrastructure in the ground when it's complete here in another 2 to 3 months. So
no more debt and no 1% funds.
We don't have any debt to speak of, at least debt that we can pay off.
Right, okay.
And 1% money is not being used for the Field of Dreams when and if it ever gets built. We are going to build some baseball fields, and it looks that way anyway.
Sure. And I don't know if the caller's still there, but we'll try one more call. I know you need to get out of here. So we'll News Talk 1270, you're on the air with Mayor Murphy.
Hey, Tom. As you know, I don't agree with a lot of things you and I talk about, but I have to give you kudos on the community and the Monday watering. I think it's great what we've asked them to do, and from my going around town and seeing what's going on, I think they took our advice, and the community still looks really good.
Absolutely. There's no question about that. I agree with you. We're a very passionate community. We love our community, and this is evidence that we do what is right and what's asked of us when we have to.
And that's a good positive note to end on, I think. And I want to thank the caller. I want to thank all the callers. They had a lot of good questions, a lot of good comments. I want to thank you all. And, of course, I want to thank Mayor Tom Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. I hope I can come asked back again.
So. Oh, anytime you want. Door's always open.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. And with that, we're going to take a break. We'll come right back. News Talk 1270, KIML.
If it's happening in Wyoming, he's talking about it. Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML.